let's just go ahead and get started then, since I think we have quite a few folks on. So if Julie, you want to switch over to making me live, which I can see we're doing that now. Just a reminder for the presenters, when you're not speaking, go ahead and have your cameras on mute, or your volume on mute, and keep your cameras on. Julie wants to be able to see you so she can move tiles back and forth a little bit easier. So yes, and then for the general audience, this is kind of a first time, so bear with us as we muddle through this morning. I think it'll turn out really good though. So good morning, I'm Brandon Wilson, the NASCOE President, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the NASCOE 2020 Virtual Convention. And to many of you who know NASCOE and you're really familiar with it, this virtual convention is something new and kind of foreign. So you might ask, why a virtual convention? Well, to make a really long story short, NASCOE got caught up in the pandemic just like everyone else. Our convention was set to be held in Savannah, Georgia earlier this month, but was canceled for safety reasons. And with all the struggles in the world today, we chose to turn a challenging situation into something productive. So usually a convention attendance is around 500 people, whereas this virtual convention gives us the chance to give thousands of FSA employees, both members and non-members, the opportunity, and maybe even for the first time ever, to experience this year's unique convention. So before we move on to some housekeeping items, I do want to extend some thank yous to some special folks. First, I'd like to thank the Georgia Association for all their hard work associated with planning the convention in Georgia. They were in the thick of this, and their efforts have not gone unnoticed. I also want to thank FSA leadership, who you will hear from here shortly. Richard Fordyce, Peggy Browne, Bill Beam, and Steve Peterson for making this offering widely possible. I'd also like to thank Rick in Pennsylvania and Teresa in Minnesota. These are some key NASCOE volunteers who are working behind the scenes to make this thing successful. And I'd like to thank all the officers, executive committee chairs, and regular committee chairs for their efforts in being adaptable in this unique situation that we face. It's really appreciated. And then finally, there's Julie. Julie is our producer today, and she's supposed to be from Texas. And if you know Julie, anything crazy can happen to someone. It can happen to Julie. And last night she evacuated from her town due to the hurricane, although I'm not 100% sure if she did go ahead and make it out or not. So Julie, I don't know where you're at right now, but I sure hope you have a good day. And finally, I'd like to thank the FSA County Committee and program staff here in Marshall County at our FSA office. They pick up the slack when one of their own has to do things like help host a virtual convention. Without them, volunteering for NASCOE would not be possible. And so now on to some housekeeping items. As we explained earlier, the virtual convention process is new. So there may be some things that just don't go as planned. There may be some voids in the presentation and some blank space. If something goes wrong or you need more information, be sure to go to the NASCOE convention webpage at nascoe.org and check that out for latest updates. Our website is also a good place to go and learn how to become involved in NASCOE. As far as the presentation goes, on our end, we're only going to see each other as presenters, and on your end, you're only going to see what we're presenting, and hopefully nothing more. This year's convention format, as you'll notice, is a bit different, so they'll be different from what you normally see. So folks who have been to a national convention, you're going to notice format more than anything. If it were in person, it would probably be 2.5 days. So what we're trying to do here today is shorten it up so that the audience stays in their chairs and they enjoy the content. Your guide to navigating the convention will be the agenda and the convention links handout. Those were both provided to you via email. They have the links and the leave status you should be on during each session. Some of these sessions you'll be granted administrative leave and some annual leave. Let's talk about the agenda. Wednesday, which is today, FSA management will address the group. That's up next. And then NASCOE will have an address. In that address, I will talk to you about the background associated with NASCOE, the roles of NASCOE, and current activities of NASCOE. And then we're going to take a look at the labor management agreement. Typically, we sign this at the convention, but this time, since it's a virtual convention, we're going to have it signed already and we'll just view it. You'll learn more about it here in a little bit. We'll talk about it in quite a bit of detail. And then there'll be a Q&A session with the FSA Administrative Management staff. That's today. This would be the administrator and his deputies. And then in the afternoon, we'll have a NASCOE committee breakout session. And in your agenda, you'll see details on these breakouts. We encourage you to stop and see the inner workings of NASCOE and check out these breakout sessions. One note on the legislative breakout, we will have a legislative breakout this afternoon, but it'll be the light version. Due to requirements to employment with the executive branch, there are certain things that we can't talk about. So therefore, there'll be an offering this evening after hours that we encourage all NASCOE members to attend on your own time without government computers. Then on Thursday, which is tomorrow, we'll have a scholarship and awards presentation to start out. And then we'll have a Q&A with Washington, D.C. program staff. And just one special note, there will be a memorial thanks to Andrea in Tennessee. And this presentation will basically be our way of recognizing county office folks who have passed away into the next world this year. It'll be a somber moment and a moment of appreciation. So you'll want to be sure and catch that between the awards session and the program's Q&A session. One quick note, there are going to be some differences between Q&As. You'll know there'll be a Q&A session today and then there'll be a Q&A session tomorrow. I'll give you special instructions on the differences between those Q&A sessions and how to properly ask questions. So now we're going to move on to our guest speakers from DC. And I'll probably say a little bit about the speakers, but not too much. I don't want to spill the beans for the speakers, and I certainly don't want to create any awkward situations. So for the speakers, each one of you will be responsible for handing the mic off to the next speaker. You're going to have 30 minutes total between all speakers. And Richard said he's got 20 of the 30 minutes, so that leaves a smaller amount of time for Peggy, Bill, and Steve. So you guys are going to have to do a really good job splitting that up. Today we're going to have Richard Fordyce, who's our administrator. Richard's actually from Bethany, Missouri. I think I got that right, Richard, which is right down the road northeast of St. Joe. It's pretty close to me, and someday, Richard, I hope to stop by and visit you because you're just a stone's throw down the road. He's our administrator, and then we have Peggy Browne, who is our deputy administrator for field operations. Peggy also comes from an agricultural background, and she's from Oregon. And then we have Bill Beam, deputy administrator for farm programs. Bill is a farmer from Pennsylvania, and he's the one that currently runs our farm programs. So his insight will be really good. And then we have Steve Peterson, who's going to be stepping in with Richard today. And Steve is the career associate administrator. Steve is our continuity and our glue between the employees and management. Richard, would you like to go?
I will, Brandon, and thank you. Brandon, Julie, Marcinda, can you hear me? Can you? Okay, good, perfect. All right. Well, and thanks, Brandon, and you are absolutely welcome anytime to come over to my place when I'm there. I'm not there very much right now, but absolutely standing invitation to come over. Well, hello everybody, and it's really good to have an opportunity to visit with you just a little bit. I thought Brandon laid out very well the challenges that certainly 2020 have specific to NASCOE, but we can certainly take that to a larger place, challenges that we've all kind of been dealing with. You know, think back to last year, the NASCOE convention. You know, some of the things that we talked about, some of the things that that we agreed to work on together, some of the things that we celebrated as successes, and some things that we could work on to try to improve. Well, that seemed like a long time ago. We have done. We've certainly experienced an awful lot since then. You know, and then you fast forward from the NASCOE convention, and I'm thinking around the first of the year. You know, January of 2020. Really from an agriculture perspective, and we had, you know, the administration had successfully negotiated a phase 1 China deal. You know, the USMCA deal was wrapped up and waiting to be ratified, and I just had a feeling, I had a sense as a farmer and also as the administrator, that that agriculture was poised to really take advantage of those of those things and others. We had come through 2019. Really, I don't know that we could have had worse weather, across the country. And then, obviously in the upper plains, our friends in North Dakota, Minnesota, some in South Dakota, maybe even Montana and Wyoming, experienced just some awful weather late summer, early fall. I guess it was in the fall that really impacted those folks. And so again, if you think about kind of our mindset in January, we were just really, I think, ready to take advantage of what was in front of us, and as an agency, that critical role that we always do. And then we heard about a virus in China, and the news, and that's a long way away, and it probably is not going to affect us. Well, it did, and it has, and certainly has really kind of turned our world upside down, as it relates to not only our producers, but for you all and for all of us. We had a plan here in Washington, where Steve and I were going to rotate every week. I'd be in a week, he'd be in a week, and so on and so forth. And I went home on my week I wasn't in and stayed there for almost 9 weeks. And and I know we've had, and Peggy, I'm sure we'll talk about this, but I know we've had a real opportunity as an agency to date what we can get done from a virtual standpoint, from a telework standpoint. And I cannot say enough about all the work that has happened. From a Washington perspective, we monitor what's going on very closely. Our division director in the business center with Homeland Security, Scott Linsky, briefs us and the SEDs on a very regular basis. And just, I really feel, I hope you all agree, I feel really good about how we've managed, the response to COVID, how we've worked with you all to the challenges that working remotely present, and how we can respond, again, working together to either provide technology or to provide, ideas, whether it's farm loans, Bill Cobb and his team, working with staff, or farm programs from a policy standpoint, and certainly all the work that DAFO has done really since this has started. So I say that, we started the calendar 2020, I think, in a very positive way. Certainly we got hit, we got knocked to the mat, but I think we've responded pretty well. And who knows what the future brings. I know I don't. I'm anticipating improvement for sure. Don't know what that timeline looks like, but I think we all hope for that, and hopefully we'll be there. I just and I also reflect back on what we've done really as an agency, and honestly the key role that you all have played in administering programs across the country. And a couple of market flotation programs, now a CFAP program, certainly ad hoc disaster program. We've got in Western states, a lot of LFP is happening. Emergency haying and grazing of CRP, a general CRP sign up, a continuous CRP sign up in places where we have our pilots, whether that is the ship pilot or others. The work that's happening around there. And Kathy had prepared a while back, I think it was maybe for our all hands meeting, just kind of an accounting of what you all have accomplished, in the last year. And it's staggering, the number of applications, contracts, dollars out the door. It is staggering. And I said on the all hands, thank you is not, and I haven't I said I'd come up with a better word. I still haven't come up with a better word than thank you, or 2 words, I guess, for all the work that you're doing. You know, and I'm not traveling much. I actually did make a quick trip out last week. Was not able to go to county offices, but certainly talk to producers. And we get the odd letter, the odd email in here, you know, from a producer, from an organization, just really saying thank you for what you're doing as an agency. Thanks to your folks in the field, you know, for their diligent work, supporting agriculture, supporting farmers and ranchers. And so you know, I think just from a broad message, you know, we have accomplished an enormous amount. We've done it under some challenging circumstances, and I think that you know, we've covered a lot of ground. We've still got a lot of ground to cover yet. I think if you think about COVID-19 and how that has affected agriculture, you know, we probably likely have something else coming, you know, in the form of support for farmers and ranchers. Don't know what that all looks like yet. Don't know really timelines yet, but likely, you know, likely something coming away. And so, you know, I know the secretary has been complimentary of this agency and you all on a number of occasions. You know, I also get compliments certainly from the undersecretary and chief of staff, other administrators and other agencies. In the CFAP program, we've worked pretty closely with AMS on the specialty crop side, and you know, they've been very complimentary. Our sister agencies as well, NRCS and RMA, you know, noticing the work that we're doing and the really the pressure that we're under to deliver these programs, and those comments and sentiments from them, I think, means a lot to us as well. So I'm going to yield a little of my time to Steve. So we're all going to use my laptop. If we're here in my office, I think it's just going to work better. And so I'm going to yield some time to Steve. So Brandon, thank you all. NASCOE, thank you for what you're doing. Thanks for all you're doing for American agriculture. And I'm going to get out of my chair. We're staying 6 feet apart. I'm going to get out of the chair, and Steve's going to sit down for a few minutes, and then he'll turn. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Richard. Number one, I really appreciate the opportunity to address you all today. Obviously, I look forward to the NASCOE conventions, engage with employees, and really get that firsthand feedback. And so fortunately, we're having to do it virtually now, so it'll be a little bit more difficult to get that firsthand feedback from you. But ultimately, it does appreciate the opportunity to be able to thank you all for the hard work that you're doing. I think Richard has done a really great job outlining everything that's been on your plate during these challenging times. Obviously, no one expected COVID, but has allowed us to be more flexible. And I can tell you that the agency has responded. You have responded. You know, we continue to know the work is getting done because we hear very favorable comments from producers about the programs that you're continuing to roll out, provide that very much needed assistance to keep in business. That's really what we're all about, is making sure that we can keep our producers in business, to keep agriculture moving forward. And ultimately, I can tell you that Congress, the Secretary, have really relied on FSA to do that, as you are very much aware of, due to the workload that you have had to endure. And we recognize that. We recognize that ultimately we wish we could just focus on getting money out the door, but there's a lot of sundry things that we have to take care of and manage as well. And that kind of slows us down, unfortunately. Know that your desire would just to work with producers, money to get things taken care of. I want to take a lot of slot in here for Richard and give me the opportunity to address you. But again, I do just want to say thank you for doing very extreme circumstances, whether you're taking applications over the phone from your home, whether you've been very outgoing and thinking of ways to still engage with producers out of your county office. Fortunately for us here in DC, We have the leadership team is in. We are continuing to engage. I say it was very difficult when we were doing it virtually. Richard couldn't kick me under the table if he didn't like something I said. Now we have that engagement, so I do appreciate that. And it's good to get back to some of that normalcy. And I'm hoping that all offices can do that very soon. I'm sure you're missing your producers as well. But ultimately, we're very hopeful this pandemic starts to subside, and that we can get back to doing what we do best, and that is providing great customer service to our producers. So with that, again, thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. Appreciate everything that you do. And with that, Peggy, I am going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Richard. Well, today I am greeting everybody from Sevier County, Utah. This is the first time that I've been able to get back out in the field and visit employees and ranchers and producers since the pandemic hit. And it has absolutely been a pleasure. It's literally one of my very favorite things is to be able to get out in the field and meet with all of you and, just see how things are going. I always learn something, and there's always things that I can take back to Washington, D.C. and work on. And I really appreciate that. I feel like that today I'm super lucky because I get center stage to give incredible news to everybody. I think most of you have probably already heard because I sent out a message, but we have been working, DAFO and others, with the Office of General Counsel on several new statutory authorities and leave acts that are very applicable to all of our county office employees. So I'm sure most of you have heard of the Paid Parental Leave Act and of the Federal Employee Family Paid Leave Act. And we recently got word from Office of General Counsel, OGC, that they went ahead and they confirmed our authority, the FSA and DAFO authority, that we can apply those same benefits to our CO employees, similar to that we do to the GS employees. So I think excellent news for all of you out there. I have some other really amazing news that I get to share. And I know that many of you know that the vast majority of hiring that has been done across the nation for CO employees over the last 8 or so years has been predominantly done by various people that are in state offices as incidental duties. So we did not have full-time employees that conducted this work other than Miss Patty Murray. And they all did this in support of Patty, and there's about 7 or 8 people. And again, they were doing this as an incidental duty. And last year, about this time, we stood up a hiring SWAT team. And with that hiring SWAT team, I was able to get about 20 people that were working on both hiring and county processing to basically focus full-time on those endeavors. And we saw amazing increases in how much could be done. Of course, this is kind of common sense that we thought that we would see, but it gave us the opportunity in FSA and in DAFO to really prove what could be done. So as a result of all that, we are now able to stand up a permanent staff of about 20 people within DAFO that are 100% dedicated to doing that sort of work. And already I have Miss Patty Murray on with us. She's leading the effort. They are under our PPOD division. So I think that that is extremely great news for county workers out there, that we'll be able to get more people on and do things quicker. And even in light of the pandemic, we've done actually pretty well with hiring and getting people on board. And let me share with you just a few of those statistics right now. So I believe that on the CO side of the coin, beginning, and this is from the term of March 14th of this year through August 1st of this year, we have brought on 222 new employees. and that's permanent employees, CO side. We have brought on 295 new temporary employees to help assist with the incredible amount of workload that we are bringing on, and 129 new GS employees. So I think that this bodes well for FSA. I think it proves that we have not taken our eye off the ball, and those numbers are only going to get better. Now, do we have a lot of work to do yet? Absolutely, yes, we do. I am under no disillusion that there's a lot of people that are retiring right now because your workload is heavy. There's a lot going on with the pandemic. And so we're going to have to really stay focused on this. And obviously we will, because we'll have a team solely dedicated to this type of work. But let me talk just a little bit about another few things that we have going on. You know, through the pandemic and even now, we have this effort in DAFO that we call flexible operational strategies. And really what that is about is just trying to be forward thinking and nimble in adapting to these ever-changing environments. And I am so incredibly proud of my team and their work with the Business Center and getting all of the hardware and the software out to all of you in actually a really quick time frame so that you could continue your good work on behalf of American agriculture. So thank you to my team for doing that, and thank you, all of you, for continuing your hard work during these trying times. We also have stood up a virtual call center in about 10 days to help support CFAP, and it's merging to support other efforts. We have also stood up a virtual jump team, and they are also continuing to do some very different work than what we've done in the past, moving more and more toward digital, which, as you can all see, we're going to have to do. In the meantime, we sent out the Office Operations Toolkit. Hopefully you all are finding that helpful. And then, of course, Box and OneSpan. And I would really encourage you all, if you have not tried OneSpan yet, please do. I am hearing from employees that it is absolutely life-changing. So if you would give that a whirl, I would greatly appreciate it. And provide us your feedback. We really do need to know, because we invest in these things and we really do it on your behalf. We want to make your lives easier. We're going to continue to develop new tools for office managers. One of the tools that we're working on right now, and this is in our BAMS division, so our Business Analytics division, is the new Manager 360 dashboard. It's a visualization tool for the day-to-day management of your FSA field offices. Hopefully it's going to provide increased access to data in the field, a better ability to map and analyze historic workload, and enabling forecasting of your workload. So again, more tools that hopefully will help you and make your lives easier. Another thing that's going to be released very soon, we have new county committee training material. I think it's been a while since that was updated. Our county committees are extremely important to the everyday work that we do and to our other farmers and ranchers, so to our customers. And I want to make sure that they're supported in the best way possible. So new updated material is coming your way to train county committee members with. So I know I'm going to need to yield my time to Deputy Administrator Bill Beam. I'm so excited to be able to get out to the field more. I'm being very careful and working with Scott Linsky and his team, and only going to places that have lower currently COVID cases. And so I'm very appreciative to his team in helping us with that. And before I hand this over, I just want to say thank you for all that you're doing out there and for continuing to do your part as the secretary says, to do right and feed everybody. So thank you again, and over to you, Deputy Administrator Bill Beam.
Well, thank you, Peggy. Thank you, everybody, for having us. And Brandon, I think the last time I seen you was a NASCOE convention. Was it like the Midwest or South Midwest? I'm not sure where it was. At Branson, Missouri. Long story short, we had all kinds of plans. Obviously, that went out the window, but nevertheless, it's good to be here with you today. So, and thinking about what I might say to you all today, and I was talking to Brad and kicking around a few ideas, and Brad said, you know, it's a really large task just to do the normal Farm Bill programs. And of course, then you add MFP, WIP, CFAP. We've thrown a lot at you guys, and we realize that. And the one thing that I want to say is thank you. And I know I heard Richard say it, I heard Peggy say it, and I heard Steve say it. But I feel like we can't say it enough. It just, and I realize it just keeps coming and coming and coming. But I really, you know, my staff and Brad said, if there's one thing that we say, we've got to tell everybody thank you. So I'm going to say it one more time. Thank you. I appreciate all the effort you all do. And it doesn't go unnoticed. As many of you know, I actually have a farm back in Eastern PA. My sons are running the farm now. And so I get to see what's going on there. And they also give me a little access. I can still look at the checkbook and the balances and see what's going on. And rest assured, Farm Service Agency is a very critical part of a lot of operations now. So I have something. I'm gonna read down through some numbers just to help sort of solidify what you all have been doing, and the numbers, quite honestly, are almost staggering. So ARC PLC contract numbers. 1.76 million contracts enrolled. That's just an incredible number of contracts we enrolled. MFP 2019 MFP $14.5 billion rolled out the door with over 659,000 applications. This just incredible number that you all dealt with. And by the way, MFP was a program that's not part of the normal Farm Bill. So that was, you might say, an ad hoc extra work that might have popped up on you. CRP, we had sign up 53. We had 415,000 acres enrolled in the process of being offered and signed up at this time. Currently in CRP, we have over 22 million acres enrolled. I mean, these are, you know, staggering numbers, huge numbers. And you all help administer this and take credit for some of this. Acreage reporting, no easy task, probably our largest task. And then you throw in something like COVID-19 and it's like, wow, how are we going to do acre reporting? And I remember we set up a task force early on in the beginning when COVID first broke. And the first thought is like, I don't even know if we can do this, but you all did it. And we had over 734 acres over 2 million acres were given on a plant. Just an amazing, and you all did it. And I watch the dashboard. I keep mentioning the dashboards. And the percent of where we were to the years prior was pretty impressive. There was a few times where I said, hey, Peggy, I think maybe we're slipping a little behind. And then Zoom, you would catch right up there. And with the allowances that we were able to do here from DAFP, we were able to get the job done. And to your credit, I didn't even hear about acreage reporting from across the street, as in, are you guys going to make it? So to your credit, you know, it didn't go noticed or unnoticed. I'm not sure how you say that, but bottom line is you did a great job on acreage reporting. WIP Plus. I know this is a challenge, and I know we got a ways to go there yet, but we have over 97,000 applications to date. CFAP, hugely popular program, still going on. 590,000 applications to date, and we have $9.2 billion out the door. And so, as you know, we've approved or have sent out that last 20% because we factored the 0.8, and you all have done a great job getting that out the door, certifying that, getting those funds out there to the producers. I just want to thank you for, once again, excellent job. Another ad hoc program that was thrown at you, a above and beyond the normal Farm Bill programs that you'll have. Last one I'm going to talk about, but not least, is DMC. DMC this year we have 13,000, over 13,000 contracts. And the interesting part was, you know, a lot of people said, well, we're not going to really need DMC. Some producers actually passed on it because it didn't look like it was going to trigger a payment. Well, guess what? It triggered a payment, and it triggered some big payments. So thanks for you all for doing what, signing up producers for what might not have seemed all that important at the time, but obviously it ended up being important at the end of the day. And I think that's true of a lot of our programs. This is really the foundation of a lot of farmers' operation, and the safety net, or catch net, if you will, to help producers to get through the tough times, which this year I don't think anybody could have predicted. So I have one more thing. I've talked about what we've done in the past. I want to talk a little bit about just a little glimpse of the future. And some of you may have been a part of our modernization of acreage reporting, or phase 1 as we've been calling it. So we had 10 states, 10 counties, and about 50 producers that were able to participate in our new pilot project. We're calling it a very limited project. And we're interacting with a map, and we call it point and click, where you can actually take your cursor, hover over a field, and do an acreage report with the producer, and it goes directly into CARS, prints out a 578 for that producer to certify then. So I want to report that our pilot was successful. Phase 1, we're given the lessons learned. We're writing up reports on that. You're probably going to hear more about that in the future, but the Secretary is very committed to modernizing acreage reporting. And I just wanted to report out that we've gone through the first phase. We've done this sort of like test the water, stick your toe in the water, so to speak. It was successful. We're very happy with where we're at. And Gwen Euchre has been doing a great job with that, as Lisa Berry and others. Keep watching for that. There's going to be more to come from that, I'm sure. So with that, Brandon, I think I'm going to turn it back to you. And I want to thank, I'm going to say it one more time. Thank you, everybody. You're doing a great job. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you to everybody who spoke. Definitely some really good news, and probably some top of the mountain news from Peggy this morning. So that's fantastic. So just moving on, we're going to go into the NASCOE speaking portion, and you know, it's one of those deals. The folks who know me know that I can talk for 15 minutes, or I can talk for an hour and a half. And I think I've got 20 minutes, so I'm going to probably have to book through this, you know, fairly good. But do want to talk about some things and how NASCOE interacts with your professional life at work, and how NASCOE works with management for county office employees. So who is Brandon Wilson? I guess I would say I'm the volunteer in charge of steering NASCOE, which is the organization that represents all 7,000 CO employees, regardless of membership. NASCOE is also supported by officers, an executive committee, and committee chairpersons. And I also want to say that, you know, this year in terms of NASCOE work, this year has definitely been a different one. I think everybody's talking about 2020 and what a bummer of a year it is. And it's also different and difficult for NASCOE because we serve our FSA employees, and it's definitely been a different and difficult one for them as well. NASCOE knows this past year has been tough in all aspects of life, at home or even at work. And we know at times morale and energy can dip because of things going on, largely because of the stresses of workload, COVID-19 procedures, deadlines, and staffing. And we know, Marcinda, our vice president from Florida, and myself, we hear frustrations from PTs and CEDs on a regular basis. This year, the frustrations are a little bit higher than they normally would be. Marcinda and I spend a lot of evenings talking to PTs and CEDs from across the country on our cell phones. And so we get a really good feel for how things are going in the county office. And what we've done is we've expressed that to management and their staff each time we get a chance. But today I want to thank everybody in the county office for sticking with it. And I want to encourage everyone to keep their heads up and focus on some of the positives that still exist today. One that really came to my mind when I was making a list of positives, positive reasons why working in the county office is great. The top one is it's a job that comes with a paycheck. It's something to occupy our time and keep us busy. And keeping us busy is something that we need to do. We know that a lot of friends and neighbors in our communities may not have jobs right now, and we're fortunate to have jobs. In the past, and even in my time, NASCOE has had to fight to keep work on the table for our employees. We've faced slowdowns with RIFs, where we have to lose people, and uncertainty in keeping programs that we administer. Benefits. That's another benefit that is really good for working in the county office. We're going to talk about benefits quite a bit today. And again, similar to jobs, we know folks in our communities who don't have benefits. And even some of us at USDA haven't always had them, and we're going to talk about that too today. COVID flexibilities. This is an area where NASCOE has been really involved this past summer and the spring. And it's an uncertain time, and we want to make sure that employees have flexibilities that they need. COVID-19 is nobody's fault. Nobody went and signed up for it. And so we have to make sure folks are taken care of. FSA has graciously offered tools necessary to accommodate folks with families, folks with health concerns. We've even received extra help with COVID concerns through the use of temporaries and flexibilities on deadlines and the use of registers because our business processes have had to change. One of the biggest positives, though, that I would point out for everybody on our meeting today is our special role of helping farmers who are in need. It's exciting to know that in this time of need, when things aren't going so well in our communities with farmers, that Congress and the Secretary still recognize FSA as the go-to agency when times get tough. And to fill that special role that they recognize at FSA, it takes special people. And as some of you may know, not all of you maybe, but this summer history repeated itself. And the paid parental leave issue brought up a large discussion about the difference between federal and non-federal employees. A conversation about why we are who we are. Paid parental leave. Why is that a big deal? Why do we need to learn about the county committee system and those employees that the county committees employ? So to many of you, mostly new employees, but some existing employees as well, this is new news. You may be asking, why is there even a difference between federal and non-federal employees? Well, the answer is pretty simple, and I'll be glad to share that today. But to do that, we start out with a history lesson for non-federal employees, also known as CO employees, on why you're different. And when I reference CO employees, I'm referring to the almost 7,000 of you out of 10,000 plus FSA employees at USDA. It's you who administer most of the producer programs USDA has to offer our farmers and ranchers every day. So a little bit of history about FSA CO employees. As most of us know, USDA was created by President Lincoln in the late 1800s. And since then, there's always been federal employees. But after Lincoln's time, something bad happened to our country. It was called the Great Depression. Our country slid into an economic and a resource depression. People were hungry and resources were wasting away. And Congress knew they had to act. At the time, we really didn't have federal programs. Mr. Lincoln, when he invented USDA, really only envisioned the extension service and land grant universities and educational programs. So Congress decided to move forward, and they knew never heard of federal programs would need to be created. Something totally different that we've never seen before in this country. But people were independent, and Congress knew that local farmers and ranchers would need to buy in, and USDA would need something credible to administer these new programs. Fast forward, the Soil Conservation and Domestic Allotment Act, which allowed the Secretary to create county committees as a more credible option for delivering federal programs, was enacted. If you think about that in today's terms, can you imagine if FSA didn't exist? What if EPA or even IRS had to administer our federal farm programs today? How credible would that be? So in the beginning, county committees were coming into the office and doing day-to-day work. They were approving contracts and making payments. Later, they realized that the farm was still pretty busy, and they really probably needed to be there to tend to their business on the farm. So to help out, county committees were authorized to hire CEDs and then later PTs. So when it was all said and done, as G.B. Washburn in Virginia always says, the bottom line is we're here today because of the county committee. So today, as you can see, we have a CO system born out of the county committee that is 7,000 employees strong. Compare that to the 2.1 million federal workers in the United States across all agencies. What does that mean? Well, that means for CO employees that when Congress sets out to grant a new benefit and entitlements to federal employees, CO employees get left out. We're generally never considered. So when Congress usually misses CO employees with new legislation, CO employees need someone to pay attention to their well-being. Just like paid parental leave this summer, CO employees were not included when Congress passed that law. And that's where NASCOE comes in. A little bit about the roles of NASCOE. Just to be very clear, one of the special features about NASCOE is not a union. It's a voluntary employee association, a trade association, if you will. NASCOE works for our members, but represents all employees across FSA who are CO. NASCOE started in the late 50s with a letter writing campaign by 4 individuals asking folks to stand together. Imagine FSA employees in the 1950s earning less than minimum wage with no leave or benefits. That's how it was for our CO employee predecessors. And in those early days, our predecessors worked side by side with federal employees in the same building who received those very benefits that they didn't get. On June 12th of 1962, NASCOE was given exclusive rights to represent all CO employees at both FSA and USDA, regardless of membership. NASCOE's job is to generally fight for benefits. We have to find out when employees aren't being treated equally, and we have to point out to management and the Congress when those equalities don't exist. This year, for example, NASCOE formally requested paid parental leave from the Department of Agriculture. And to USDA's credit, over the years, they generally granted CO employees the same benefits that USDA federal employees enjoy. This year, FSA was great to work with and understood completely the position CO employees were faced with. Benefits like annual leave, sick leave, and now paid parental leave, transferring from CO to GS within USDA, within grade increase, cost of living adjustment, and leave donation. These benefits have all been granted to CO employees by USDA because of advocacy on your behalf. Other benefits we've secured through legislation. Those include health care, life insurance, and retirement. These are all benefits that we didn't have to start with, and NASCOE had to ask or fight for them in the past, and just like we're doing today. Some of them now are permanent in law, and some of them, such as annual leave and sick leave and paid parental leave, WGIs, leave donation, and COLAs are not. Those benefits need to be monitored annually. Labor management is another important issue that we talk about when we consider our association with management. You'll see a signed copy of our labor management agreement shortly after this presentation. It's a fundamental agreement between management and NASCOE on how to operate and move forward, creating a better place to work, something that has endured since the early 1960s. If you want to do a little research on your own, you'll find the details about the labor management agreement in Exhibit 22 of Handbook 22 PM. Specifically, our labor management agreement provides for state associations the ability to consult with their state executive directors and their state committees. It requires a state association to have 51% membership to be recognized by their state committee. Membership percentage at the state level is key to having a credible voice. Once you become a member at the state level, you're automatically a member of NASCOE at the national level. A few years ago, when NASCOE met one-on-one with Secretary Sonny Perdue, the first question the Secretary asked Dennis Ray, our past president, and myself was pretty straightforward. He asked where you're from. That was an easy question to answer, and that was one we expected. The second question we didn't quite expect, but it was a very important question. He asked, what's your membership percentage? And Dennis said 85%. Mr. Perdue said, that's a really good number. It made Dennis and myself smile. So what did that interaction mean? What that means is we have a large group of employees who are willing to stand together and speak in unison on behalf of their trade. It means that we're a credible broker. The Labor Management Agreement is a tool for collaboration, better understanding between state offices and county offices. Quite often, county offices don't realize that state offices have some pretty serious decisions to make when it comes to budget and allocating tools. And sometimes state offices forget how hard it really is to work in the trenches with the customers with limited resources. And so the Labor Management Agreement allows state associations and state offices to work together to bridge gaps in understanding. Problem solving is also key with the Labor Management Agreement. And dispute resolution. NASCOE spends many hours every year trying to avoid grievances and solve disputes between management and employees. Also, an improvement in working conditions and an improvement in overall customer service can be realized by employees working through their state association with their state office. Just like a state association is consulting with their state office, so is the national organization NASCOE consulting with the national office. On a regular basis, myself and NASCOE Vice President Marcinda visit with national office staff about issues that are front and center. Often we can help with troubleshooting or provide clarification on matters to our members. Before I leave from that thought, I would ask employees in the states and state associations to visit with your state office about your relationship between each other when it comes to the Labor Management Agreement. Historically, labor and management have met on a regular basis throughout the year, sometimes twice, sometimes 4 times a year. Nothing negative can come from good communication and meeting with management. So I would encourage you to establish a good relationship with your state offices if you have a chance. Now I want to talk a little bit about this year's activities and future goals. And what else has NASCOE done this year? It hasn't all been COVID and paid parental leave. I assure you there's been more that we've been working on. Achievements that NASCOE has requested or worked for you on your behalf include a leadership development program in Dallas. In November, NASCOE was able to sponsor county office employees and pay for their travel to come to Dallas and learn how to be leaders within their county offices and their state associations and even the national association. It was a well-attended training, and we're looking forward to hosting our next one as soon as COVID is done. Increased workload transparency. This is something that managers have been asking for a long time, and NASCOE has really pushed for. DAFO has been very generous, and they've provided access to dashboards for managers to see workload analytics. Also, managers can now see their workload numbers provided by the state office through their district directors to them and their county committees. That's been very well received, and we really appreciate DAFO offering that to all county office managers. And by now you should have access or have been told that you can enter those applications anytime you need to. And I think there's going to be more dashboards coming too, as has been alluded to on this call. Increases in funding is also very key. This year, we've seen $35 million to be spent on salaries and staffing in both fiscal years 20 and 21, an extra bump provided by Congress to the Farm Service Agency because they recognize the need for staffing during these tough times. We've also seen $3 million extra so far in COVID-19 administrative relief as well. We know that Congress is working on another COVID package, and they do intend to provide more administrative money as well. This signals that we're going to be busy for a long time in the future. The recognition of NASCOE by members of Congress is a big deal. Some of that comes from NASCOE members on their own free time as volunteers, having a seat at the table during congressional hearings of ag committees and making special visits to the Hill as needed. Earlier, Peggy talked about county committee orientation training. This was certainly championed by Peggy Browne and her director, Martin Bomar, a high priority for NASCOE over the past several years, and we were so tickled to see them put an investment in putting together a task force to develop that training. It's a solid move forward on reaffirming the importance of the county committee culture in the county office. County committees for the last several years have begun to wane in a certain aspect as we bring on new employees who don't understand the historical context of county committees and how they're important. Look for a sneak peek in this afternoon's County Office Advocacy Breakout Session. Martin Bomar, director from DAFO, will be stopping by to talk to everybody in the session about the new county committee advocacy training and how important it is. We also seen signs of the shared management task force being queued up. That's one that a lot of our members have been asking for many years, and this is a NASCOE negotiation item, similar to the county committee training force, something that we've asked for that management has agreed to do. The shared management task force has kind of been placed on the side for the time being due to concerns with COVID and prioritizing. We look for that to come online later this year. And another one that really makes me smile that I'm glad to talk about, this past spring, FSA hosted a program technician leadership training in Kansas City. It was a great training and I didn't hear any bad reviews, and it was built by Teresa Martin from DAFO. Teresa is an expert at building training, and I've heard no complaints so far. The PT leadership training is another example of a training that came about as a result of NASCOE negotiating to provide more services to the field from management. So a big victory there, and we're very happy that that was launched this year by management. Another thing that Peggy touched on was maintaining CED hiring authority. She talked about hiring and how important it is to bring CO employees on as fast as we can. Peggy had some really great numbers to share with us today. And I'd also like to say, really important to point out that the transition to the business center has still led to CEDs having the ability to hire. A lot of our GS counterparts in management may not be able to hire in some cases. So it's a real special acknowledgement that the law that governs county committees and their CEDs is still recognized, and CEDs can still hire permanent program technicians and temporary program technicians. We still have a little fine tuning in the process that NASCOE would like to see, but overall we're happy that CEDs can still hire. One of the more special ones on the list that I have to tell you about is this year we processed 150 negotiations and program items. One of the biggest values NASCOE provides for program technicians and CEDs is the ability to be heard by management. A lot of your friends and neighbors who have jobs downtown or on the street or work in the corporate world, sometimes they don't get to provide input on the work that they do every day. Through the NASCOE Labor Management Agreement, employees can submit suggestions through NASCOE on policy and program improvements, and those program improvements can be taken to the national office through our programs chair, Chris Hare. This year we processed 150. That's a really big number, and we have a really high success rate. If you want to learn more about submitting negotiations items and program suggestions, you should tune in to the Programs and Negotiations Committee breakout this afternoon. And the multiple challenges that we've faced this year have shown how valuable the national arrangement between NASCOE and management working together through the Labor Management Agreement really is, and how those relationships have gotten stronger. This is evident today because we're holding a virtual national NASCOE convention, which was approved by management. So we really appreciate that, and we feel like the relationship is very good. Finally, I'd like you to check NASCOE out. I charge the audience today with making sure that your state association is pointed in the right direction and has support from you to be effective. Supporting your state association also supports NASCOE. Supporting NASCOE allows officers like me and the executive committee to be more effective on your behalf when we work on your benefits and telling your story. I also ask that new employees take a strong look at their state association and the National Association and ask, how can they become involved? If everyone stands together as a team, everyone will benefit. Folks interested in learning more about NASCOE should go to the website and find out more about who we are. I appreciate everyone's time, and now we're going to move on to showing you the labor management agreement. Julie, can you confirm that my labor management agreement's up? Here's the labor management agreement. This is what you'll find in Handbook 22 PM, Exhibit 22. And as you'll see annually at the end, there's a signature from the administrator, the deputy administrator, and NASCOE. This is the important agreement that we've talked about. And that agreement was signed in advance today to make the transition a little bit easier as we move through the presentation today. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the Q&A that's going to be coming up. Question and answer sessions. This is one of the more important offerings from DC during a national convention. It's a tradition that we've had for many, many years, and we wanted to be sure and incorporate the Q&As in this year's virtual convention. I do want to make one important note about the Q&A. There's a Q&A today, and then there's one tomorrow, and they are a little bit different. The Q&A today is more for administrative questions. So say, for example, you had a question about overtime or leave. That would be a good question to ask today. The Q&A tomorrow is more for programs and program-oriented questions. So let's just say you had a question about compliance and acreage reporting. Tomorrow would be a good time to ask that question. There is one example to that. There is one exception to that rule, though. Let's say you had a program question that was maybe higher level, like, will there be a WIP deadline anytime soon? That would be one that you'd probably want to ask our administrator while we have him on the phone today, since he won't be around tomorrow. We request that your questions be pertinent and respectful, and we want to keep them short and not run on. And we'd love you to include your name so we can see where you're from and make the question a little bit more relatable and meaningful. However, there is an anonymous option if a sensitive question is going to be asked. All questions may not be answered today. All questions may not be asked today. All questions will be responded to and submitted to DC, even if they haven't been read out loud at the meeting. So now I'd like to turn it over to Marcinda in the Q&A session.
Marcinda, you're on mute and I can't get you off.
Is this better? Okay. Hi, everybody. We do have a couple of questions that have been submitted already, so I'm going to start off. The first one I think is probably going to be for Peggy. It says FSA employees have proven this year that telework can be accomplished by county office employees. One factor that was hindering to county office employees who were successfully teleworking was the inability to print while teleworking. Has FSA looked into buying each county office a traveling printer, therefore allowing the printer to travel to an off-site location if an employee is teleworking? In the larger office, maybe 5 employees or more purchased to for the traveling printers.
All right, thank you for that question, Marcinda, and whoever submitted it. So at this time, that's not something that we have looked deeply into. It is something that we have discussed, but we have frankly absolutely maxed out our budget when it comes to deploying all of these different types of hardware and software. It's something that we can look into and will be looking into a little bit more in the future. But we also have to remember that we are in some times right now that we don't know what's going to happen next, right? Are we going to go back to what is maybe more normal, or will we be in this telework status for, you know, how long? These are questions and things that we do not have the answers to. So again, is it something that we've talked about and that is on our radar? Yes. Are we acting on it at this point? No, we are not. We're just going to kind of wait things out here for a while and see how this unfolds. So thank you, Marcinda.
Thank you, Peggy. Okay, this next one is probably for Bill. Is he still in the room with you, Richard?
He is walking down the hall, I am told, headed this direction. So
Well,
he should be here. Bill Cobb is actually scurrying out to get him in here quicker.
okay, then I'll hold this one off till the next one. And this is actually probably another question for Peggy then. Is there a timeline for when the FEPLA notice will be out, and can you expand on the details of it for county office employees?
So I believe that one, let me look at my notes here. They are working on the notice right now. I don't have a timeline for exactly when it's going to be out, because here's what we're doing. Because that notice is applicable to both GS and CO employees, we were going to go ahead and have HR and the Business Center finish out what they're doing and then take theirs and tweak it and resend it out for county office employees. No sense reinventing the wheel, right? So they're working on that right now. I know it's in the works. I don't have a deadline for when it's exactly going to happen. Unfortunately for all of you, I am not an expert on the Family Medical Paid Leave Act. And so I think that we'll just have to wait until we have some more details, and they will be forthcoming.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this next question is for Bill. It says, any time frame on the quality loss portion of WIP Plus?
Great question. So do we have a time frame as far as for sign up? No, I can tell you this. We met with the undersecretary just last week. We have all the questions that we can think of at the moment. Not to say as we go about developing the program and writing software, et cetera, there will be a few more questions that have to be asked, but we're getting close. I will give you a little hint as to what it might look like. We're trying to keep it as simple as possible. We don't want the producer to come dragging in all of his records of every sale he had for whatever applicable year it is, and then starting to figure out what his losses are. So we're trying to get simple, and I really think this is maybe where having a farmer like Richard or myself here helping, so to speak. Sorry, Peggy. We maybe can make it as simple as possible, but still practical and have some validity to the program. So that being said, I would look forward this fall sometime, but we have not set a date.
Okay, thank you. Here's another one for Peggy. Although hiring approvals and onboarding timeframes have improved, are there plans to improve access and permission timeframes? When hiring an employee, to actually getting to the point they are able to help with anything within software is still a long process.
Yes, so interestingly enough, this has been a frustration for quite some time. And, we've, I would say, made like teeny little increments of progress on it, but clearly not enough, right? Or else we still wouldn't be getting this question. So as I'm sitting this morning with, again, one of my favorite things, I got to sit down with employees in Sevier County office. There's about 10 people. We were practicing social distancing, but I was getting to see people face to face. And this is one of the frustrations that they brought up with me. And so as they're talking to me about this, it was specifically about a flat that they had brought on not all that long ago, and a lot of the frustrations that they'd encountered around bringing this person on. And it occurred to me that there is a way to do this better. So I had a brainstorm about it. I asked them for some information. So stay tuned on that one. I have an idea. Let me see if I can put it into practice and make this better.
Okay, well, the next one was actually for Richard. There he is. I was like, he left me. Okay, Richard, this one's for you. It was specifically for you. It says, when will FSA provide permanent software for ELAP? The calculation worksheet in InfoPath is not correct, and the county offices keep using it. This will eventually result in erroneous payments. Will there be permanent software developed like what we use for LFP and LIP?
Gosh, Marcinda, that was an easy one. You know, I happen to have Steve sitting right here for this very reason. I absolutely agree with the statement in the question. But from a practical standpoint, as far as a timeline or plan, let me check that to Steve. He's giving me a look like he doesn't want to answer either, but here comes Steve. I think that's a thanks, Richard. But anyway, to be perfectly honest with you, you know, obviously FSA only has a limited amount of funding for IT initiatives, and we have to distribute not only that funding across our systems that are currently permanent systems, platforms that we have to keep and maintain the system running, and so we have limited ability to really do a lot of development work with regard to that. It is a priority of FSA to get ELAP. It's really the only program that we're still running through a spreadsheet and that type of a system, and so we do want to get it updated. I know that the user requirements have been worked on. It's really just prioritizing the funding to get that set aside so that we can full automation implementation for ELAP. So I don't have a good timeline. When we go through and look at fiscal year 2021 funding and what those priorities are, then we'll be taking a look at whether or not we can fit ELAP into be a fully automated program. Best answer I can give you at this point in time.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, the next one I'm going to give it to you, Peggy. Is teleworking going to be available to PTs after the COVID-19 situation?
All right, thank you for that one. I had a feeling it was coming. I've been asked that a lot. So I don't have a good answer for you all. Again, I'm going back to, we're in this situation of really not knowing what the future looks like. And to be perfectly candid, that's going to be a secretarial decision. I think as we move forward, everything's going to evolve, right? We've seen evolution both on our parts within FSA as well as in the private sector. This is something that I monitor pretty closely, so I can kind of gauge how things are going in these different sectors. And at the beginning of COVID and when everybody was going on telework, the prediction was this is how the new norm is going to be. Look at all the money that the big companies are saving by not having to pay, or maybe not going to have to pay, for a very expensive office space in New York, in some of the areas that have extremely expensive square footage rates. Fast forward to July, and I was reading articles into July saying, we've interviewed about 12 CEOs, and they're saying that there's actually some downfalls that they're starting to see around this. And one of them is the lack of opportunity for knowledge transfer. And we all know in FSA how incredibly critical that is. We have these absolutely brilliant people working for the agency, and if there's not the opportunity to have that personal interaction with some of our new employees coming in, with those employees with all that knowledge, we're going to be in a very difficult position. So I think that everything is still unfolding and we still have a lot to learn, and the decision is not made yet. So let's see what happens.
Thanks, Peggy. This one's probably for you as well. It was mentioned that 30 million has been allocated for staffing and administrative. When will our offices be staffed to accommodate the tremendous / constant program delivery work the PTs deliver?
Okay, it takes me a second sometimes to get off of mute. So I think that you're going to see a higher increase of people coming on, new people coming on, and new hires as I get the team on board that I referenced earlier. That team of 20 folks that are now going to be permanent, and that's happening right now. I think that our advertisement, I believe it actually closes this week. So folks, it's out there on the street. So you're going to see a big increase through that. And I would say that I've talked a lot the last month to my state executive directors that, you know, put these requests in, let's keep this rolling, and we're going to be able to support you in getting people hired because, you know, frankly, again, they have an immense workload in those state offices, just like you do out in the counties, and they're backlogged getting all these requests processed. So that's another thing that this team will be able to help with. So I think that very soon you will see more new employees come on with FSA.
Okay, here's one more for you, Peggy. Does annual leave continue to be accrued while on parental leave?
You know, with this Teams environment, there's some great opportunities and we still get to see each other and we still get to interact, but I don't have the opportunity to phone a friend on some of these very technical questions that I'm getting. And again, unfortunately, you all have somebody who is not an expert at some of these acts that you're asking questions about. So we will get that information out to you. Apologies that I'm not an expert on that, but at least it's going to be applicable to all of you.
That is not a problem. We appreciate you doing that. I'm going to throw this one to Richard since I don't see Bill. I hope I didn't lose Richard, although I think we just lost Richard. Oh no. Well, I will skip that. We'll go to, oh, there he is. He came back. Okay. Richard, the question is, since Bill's not here, I think you can probably get this one. Does WIP Plus, in fact, have a projected deadline roughly?
So does it have a deadline? I think Peggy's grinning at me. I'm not sure. So it does not have a deadline as of today, but I can tell you that we are, you know, we're trying to analyze where we are with the program, with program sign up. You know, how much is left to come in. That, as you can imagine, that is a very difficult number to come up with to try to estimate a sign-up deadline. Certainly, I know that the secretary and undersecretary, you know, I think have a desire for us to establish a sign-up deadline. But when we try to do the analysis to determine who's yet to come in, that's very difficult because we have, you know, we could have Marcinda come in as a producer, and we run the application and it generates a payment for Marcinda, and Brandon's farming across the fence, very similar type soil, very similar type yields, very similar type insurance. There could be something Brandon did that was different. So he maybe had a higher yield. And so Brandon, we run the application on Brandon and it generates no payment. So we're trying our level best to give an estimate to Undersecretary Northey, who ultimately I think has been briefing the secretary, kind of on what we think workload left to do is. And we've got a number of projections from quite a bit yet to come in to maybe not as many as the quite a bit number. And so that's a really long answer to a question of, or to the answer is, we don't have one yet, but we will be establishing one very soon, would be my guess. Peggy, nod if you agree. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is probably for you, Peggy, as well. Will annual leave be able to be carried over till next year due to our work situations this year and the limitations for traveling restrictions due to COVID-19? Having folks in county offices to carry out the office being open and looking for info for those teleworking, etc.
We are working right now with staff in the business center and with OHRM and also OPM to get a final answer on that. I can tell you that there is a lot of sympathy and empathy going out to all of our employees because of these circumstances. So I'm expecting that there's going to be some flexibility there. I don't have a final answer for you all right now, but we are working on getting one. There's been a lot of discussions around this.
Okay. Also for you, Peggy, is there any recent action or effort being expended on the question of allowing FERS employees hired after 1987 being allowed to buy back their temporary service?
Okay, that is another very technical one. I need my team today, you guys. Now that is not one that there's been much discussion on. I can check into it, but we are a little bit more focused right now on looking at what we can do with extending some of the leave.
Okay, thank you. Richard, this one's going to be for you. Is there any way to have RMA software and FSA software be more integrated so that we reduce the data entry for WIP and WIP Plus?
So is there any way? Yes, absolutely. There's a way. You know, I think certainly it's a desire of ours to be able to do that. You know, we, I think, a little off the question, but I think, you know, when Bill Beam mentioned the modernized acreage reporting, the modernized acreage reporting approach, where we are truly working directly in this process with RMA. You know, that's going to allow for us to understand how maybe possibly that can be done. You know I've talked to Steve, and I'll probably have Steve like hit cleanup on this question after I stammer around here for a while. You know, there have been different types of data transfer from RMA to FSA in the past on other programs that maybe have worked better. So you know, we have probably on a daily basis, we're communicating with RMA and folks at RMA to, you know, to see if there's a way forward to refine that data a little better. But you know, it would be our desire moving forward, and I know RMA's as well. We've just got to figure out how to do it and who pays for it. But to have more defined access to data. So if we're asking for something specific that we're able to get that data in a format or a form that is more specific. You know, from a path forward standpoint, I don't know that we have like a timeline or a defined path forward, but certainly we ask ourselves the same thing, and I'll ask Steve to and put on this cake, on this answer.
It's an excellent question. It is something that we've tried to do, excuse me, for several years. I think that one thing to remember is the fact that for WIP right now, let me go back a little bit of history very quickly. Ultimately, in past disaster programs, whether it was shore or disaster, we had an insurability file that allowed us to, that information, we read that information, it cross-referenced the information from FSA to RMA. We really don't have that right now. What RMA is providing to us is really a data dump into that WIPR report. And so that requires our county offices to do a lot more work associated to that. We have been in conversations with RMA about the ability to streamline and be able to read that information much easier and quicker. As a matter of fact, there are a few efforts that you're probably going to find out in the next coming months where we are using some RMA data, and we're hopeful that that's the beginning of how we will use it moving forward. So we are making progress. Ultimately, right now, I think with the benefit of the Business Center is the fact that our IT not only handle FSA's IT, but also handles RMA's IT. And so they are working to make certain our systems can communicate together. Is it going to take time and money, like Richard said? Yes, it will. But we do know we are making steps towards that. And I think you're going to see some of those things in the very next few months on some of that data and utilizing some of RMA's data, hopefully in a simplified process. And we hope to continue to build upon that if we do have another ad hoc disaster program, ultimately we can read that information much quicker. One last thing that I will say is and it's probably partially my fault. When we rolled out WIP Plus, ultimately we did a rollover of the original WIP, and ultimately we got to a point where a lot of sign up had been done. And so we tried to balance, well, is it reasonable to continue to do work on the WIPR and this data between RMA and FSA? And ultimately we said, no, we need to pull the resources because we are done. Well, lo and behold, in December of 2019, Congress comes back, and what do? They then authorize excessive moisture and drought as one of the two major causes of loss that most producers receive. And had we known that back in the fall, we would have continued that effort on the WIPR to make it much easier access to the data. We would have expended that resource to do that. We didn't know that at the time. And so ultimately we said, we're almost to the end of WIP Plus. We need to pull back resources. We're not going to continue to go ahead and update those systems. And then we kind of find out that, oh, but lo and behold, now we've got more sign up than we ever anticipated, where it would have been very beneficial if we would have continued those efforts to provide a better product. I can tell you also from the WIP Plus perspective, Richard's commented about the fact that, is there a deadline? How are we going to get to the finish line, et cetera? I just want you to know that we are continuing right now, even as we speak, to try to make improvements to the WIPR, to the data in which we're receiving it. And hopefully, as you know, we're continuing to do training. So we see the importance of trying to make it more streamlined now to better the information, even as you use it now. But I really think in the future, you are going to see some hopefully significant improvements with regard to how FSA and RMA share data at a program level for program purposes. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. I want to go back to the previous question. Somebody had asked about the buyback of temp time if you were after a certain date. I just want to let y'all know NASCOE has been working on that. You might want to tune in tonight. Our legislative co-chairs, Neil Burnett and Clint Bain, during the session tonight, they're probably going to talk about that a little bit and let you know where NASCOE is and what their efforts have been to try to get that taken care of. So just thought I would give you all a little bit of that information. Our next question is probably for Peggy. It says, in light of uncertainties with the service center operational statuses and staffing limitation in service centers, has FSA management considered an alternative plan such as a meeting at an offsite location for county committees to conduct the required COC election in December?
Great question. So yes, we're evaluating several different options and opportunities. I know that, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster for some counties what stage they're in. We are seeing a good turn in the right direction so that hopefully we can do these elections in person for the most part. I do think that there's the possibility that some of those may have to be conducted in a different manner, but we are evaluating different options.
Great. One more also probably for you, Peggy. It says, as county offices move through the reopening phase, will the department make it a priority to purchase barriers and shields to ensure safety of employees as they begin working with customers face-to-face in the future? For example, a plexiglass barrier as seen in many private sector businesses.
Yeah, so another great question. And of course, you know, the safety of our employees and our producers is paramount. And so we have offered to state management lots of different options and opportunities around what their needs are in various offices, from being able to acquire and distribute with support from FEMA and others, HUD, some face masks that have been sent around the country. So, and those face masks have a really great story, you guys. So when this first hit, the administration worked with cotton growers and said, hey, and it was actually the company of Hanes. And they said, hey, you know, we're in need of some cotton face masks. And so Hanes switched production and they started producing all of these cotton face masks. So it's US grown cotton sent to Hanes, a US manufacturing company. They manufacture the masks. Those masks are sent out to all of you who are in turn supporting all of the farmers, some of the same farmers that grew this cotton that's so necessary in some of the things that we're using for safety today. So a lot of different options and tools for making sure that our employees and the producers are protected as we move forward.
Okay, one more for you. So it says, what are staffing levels based off of? We see very uneven levels across the state.
So staffing levels are based on workload. And when you fill out your TNA, you are telling us what you are working on. And those are then cross-referenced with what is being turned out. So what applications? Is it WIP? Is it CFAP? So it's kind of this cross-reference, and we call it burdening. And in the end, what basically is spit out is workload. So this is why it's so important to make sure that your web TNA is coded correctly. And what that shows is how busy an office is. And we're very careful to only compare like offices in like agriculture, because we know that agriculture is so different and diverse across the entire nation. You know, we can't compare something necessarily in Missouri with something in California. It just doesn't work well. So we're very careful about that. And so it's these facts that are helping with these data-driven decisions, and that is what is the workload and the staffing is based on.
Okay, one more question for you, Peggy. When will the retirement calculator be made available / fixed?
So Marcinda just keeps saying one more question for Peggy. I do not have an answer for that. I know that they are trying diligently to get that fixed. It's a question that we get more than once a day. So we know that it's something that's absolutely needed out there, and we will continue to push to convey the necessity of it.
Okay, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to throw one to Richard.
Great.
August 15th was an excellent date for spring crop acreage reporting deadline. Is there any discussion to make this a permanent deadline date?
So the easy answer is no, or the quick answer is no. And so, you know, we work very closely with RMA on their deadlines as well, because our acreage reporting, you know, however it's done, but generating a 578, you know, there are so many crop insurance agents that use that 578 as a way to populate, you know, their deck sheets for insureds. And And so they have, so RMA have contractual agreements with the companies to be able to get that data in. They start to process it, and then the billing dates for premium, are pretty tight. When Bill Beam granted a grace period, it actually wasn't an extension of the deadline. It was because we heard quite a bit about that. It wasn't an extension of the deadline. It was basically a 30-day grace period where we wouldn't assess a late file penalty on producers. So, as a farmer myself, more time is always better. But this conversation and ultimately the decision is much bigger than FSA. It involves RMA to a good bit, and a lot of so we have a number of acreage reporting deadlines, and I'll ask Steve, is it like 12 or 13 different ones across the country? 12 or 13 different acreage reporting deadlines, depending on where you are in the country and what crops and what things are there. And so, most of those are done in conjunction and counsel with RMA so that we're aligned with their products and their sales closing dates and billing cycles and all of those different things. So, August 15th does sound like a good time, but likely we are still on spring seeded crops. We're likely still on July 15th.
Okay, I've got one more for you, Richard. A while ago, they asked you about WIP Plus and about having a deadline, and you thought that one was going to be announced soon for the WIP Plus program. So the question is how can we announce a deadline when we haven't even announced that the quality loss portion of it, since we have so many producers that will have quality losses and will want to apply?
So I've got my counselors over here to the left. Don't want to get in trouble. So that is a great question, and would not expect anything less. And there's been a bunch of great questions. So we determined, I don't know, a month ago or so, that we were going to run the quality loss program as a separate program. The funding is out of the WIP Plus, the WIP Plus appropriations. But we're going to run the quality loss program independent of WIP Plus.
Okay, thank you. Peggy, this one is for you. You had just stated previously that knowledge transfer is important, and we all recognize that. Is there any way that we could hire people before current employees retire? In this question, the office is referencing that they just lost 3 out of 4 employees to retirement, but they weren't able to hire somebody before those people left. So there was no knowledge transfer. So they're sitting there with 3 people that have to be trained right out the gate.
So while I don't know the specific circumstances of that office and how, what brought on the retirements, how quickly it happened, I can tell you that this is something that my team and I work with your state managers on every day. We have moved much more often to allowing those, but it is under very specific circumstances. And the reason why is because of having to manage our ceilings. So our budgetary, what we're given is a budget. So again, while I can't always say yes to all of those, we are in position to where we are saying yes to many more. And I just get justifications from state leadership and we move forward.
Okay, thank you. Richard, this one's for you. Has there been any progress made with the task force that was set up last year for alternatives to the COT program for hiring CEDs?
So yeah, lots of progress. I might let Peggy hit cleanup after I answer my portion. And I think we talked about this at the annual meeting last year, but this came out from a discussion that we had at an offsite leadership meeting, golly, in the fall of 2018, with SEDs and and Washington, our headquarter leadership. And, you know, we talked about, you know, again, we talked about how can, I mean, thinking outside the box, how can we do things that are more efficient? How can we do things, you know, to provide, you know, meaningful benefit to staff, and, you know, how can we fill a gap from, you know, from an agency leadership standpoint, from an agency manager standpoint. And so, you know, we talked a lot about, you know, the COT program, and, you know, I've seen some of the vacancy announcements when we're advertising for COTs. And when I was the SCD in Missouri, you know, we just got amazing applicants. And so, you know, the traditional way that we train county office, the county office trainee program, you know, probably works in some cases, but in other cases, we probably have folks that are selected that don't need all of that, right? And so we talked about, you know, a leadership development component. We talked about a program competency component. And so, so anyway, we did put together a task force to look at that. You know, Peggy and DAFO, we had a contractor help us a little bit with that. But there were recommendations that came out of the work that the task force did. And if anybody's on today, and I'm sure there are a few, thanks for serving on that task force and the input that you provided. But Peggy, can you give us an update on where we are with the Set It?
Absolutely, Richard, and great job covering that, by the way. So there are actually a lot of items that came out of what we call the Administrators Task Force. And just if you want to take a look at those, they are on the Administrators I think the Administrators SharePoint site, and I believe they're open to everybody. So to kind of directly address the COT question earlier, so much went into this. At the minimum, what I can say, because I know we're starting to get short on time, is that we've actually completely renamed the COT program. That's not out there yet, but it will be, because we're finalizing an update to the handbook. And so again, we've renamed it the Set It program. And the idea behind this is the group wanted to come up with something that was more real to our producers out there and to people who might be coming into the program who are not familiar with the agency. So to most people, what's a COT? What's a county office trainee? That doesn't mean a lot, but they do know what a county executive director is. So that now we've renamed it to call it Set It again, which stands for County Executive Director in Training. Because again, to the everyday person that is not familiar with FSA's alphabet soup, that means a lot more to them than maybe the COT or the COT program. We have a whole list of best management practices that came from that group. And some of the work spun out into our county office toolkit that I mentioned earlier. So again, I really encourage you to tap into that information that's out there. And we'd love for you to get familiar with it and use it, because we did all of that, hopefully to help all of you.
Okay, thank you. This one also is going to be for you, Peggy. This is about the CFAP call center volunteers. It says a substantial number of volunteers in this project are county office staff. Many of us were surprised by the MyFPAC and farmers.gov releases on Monday that indicated that the call center focus was expanding to other programs. As county office employees with other workload pressures, dedicating 8 to 12 hours each week is becoming unsustainable for our local customers and our coworkers. With this expansion, will the employees that call center is a collateral duty be phased off the call center so that we can serve our local producers more effectively?
All right, Marcinda, thank you so much for that question. I am truly glad that that was asked, and I'm given the opportunity to address this. So let me first thank everybody who volunteered to be on that initial call center. That was and who is still contributing and working as a call center volunteer. That is absolutely huge. It has made a world of difference, not only to our producers, but to county staff around the nation. That team has taken on so much work, and it has been an incredible help. So now let me get to the clarification part. These are two very separate and distinct groups, all right? We have the call center, and then we have a new virtual jump team. The virtual jump team is made up of reemployed annuitants and of new temporary employees. And they are the that are taking on additional duties. We are starting to phase out the folks that were originally on the call center. Most of them actually already have been let go back to their other jobs. And when I say phased out, I really am meaning let them go back to their jobs that are already more than full time. So we completely understand and recognize that you all were truly going above and beyond when you were helping with that and not adding extra duties to what you are already doing every day. We just needed to add some clarification to that blog and make sure that everybody knows that there are actually two separate and distinct initiatives happening.
Okay, this is probably the last question, and of course it's going to be for Peggy. And this is probably my favorite question of the day. Are there any conversations regarding allowing longtime employees with numerous years to retire early? Please say yes.
Marcinda. So there are not. And you all know the reason why. We need you. We need your knowledge. We need your capability, your expertise, and we need that knowledge transfer to the new employees. So at this point in time, there are not those conversations happening, but I can 100% guarantee you that it absolutely does not go unnoticed every single day how important you all are to this organization and the fact that we do need you to that degree. So as much as I would like to say yes, so that you could go sailing around the Caribbean someplace, because that's what I would be doing, I'm not going to say yes.
Well, darn. Well, thank you all very much. I think we're going to wrap it up. We have a lot of questions that are still left in the queue, and we will be getting answers to all those. We'll be sending those up and getting responses, and we'll get those published on the NASCOE website. And I'm going to turn it over to Brandon so he can close this up.
Okay, very good. And Richard, while you're still here, I do want to mention for the crowd, we had the acreage reporting question. We always get an acreage reporting question all the time, but it wasn't probably a couple years ago. We were at a Southwest area NASCOE meeting, and Mr. Fordyce was there, and a CED by the name of Robert from Oklahoma stood up and asked about moving that grass reporting date from November to July 15th. So, you know, keep asking the questions. You may not get the answer you want right away, but they certainly do take your suggestions and go back and think about it. And I remember Richard, as a farmer, he agreed with the NASCOE suggestion. So I thought that was a really good thing. So I think, Richard, did you have any comments before we go at all?
Just real briefly, Brandon, and again, thanks everybody for the opportunity to spend some time with everyone today. You know, absolutely really miss the opportunity to personally interact with everyone. You know, and I do fondly recall this session in a live format. You're wondering, as someone walks up to the microphone, what is the question going to be? But really enjoy that opportunity to be able to, you know, hopefully answer some questions and a chance just to interact with the membership and others that are on today. But you know, you guys do a great job representing employees I know that we have ample opportunities to have conversations about things that are of interest to NASCOE and the employees that you represent. So certainly appreciate that opportunity to talk as well. And so, I mean, I would just say, great seeing everyone that I saw, and thanks again for the opportunity to be a part, just a small part of your virtual meeting today. And I know we'll have some folks on tomorrow as well. And so everybody, just thanks and keep up the great work. And you know, at some point we're going to get through the
Okay, I think Richard's connection maybe timed out a little bit there, so so good timing. We'll go ahead and do closing remarks for today, because we're at that part of the day where we're winding down the first half of today's session. So I do want to remind everybody to go to that handout or that webpage and check out the committee breakouts this afternoon. It's a great way to, again, learn about the inner workings of your association and what kind of business we have planned this year. You know, we had the temporary buyback. I'm glad Marcinda spoke up about that. That's an issue that you'll hear about if you attend some of our breakout sessions. It's a very important issue, and other issues that are important too that they'll talk about. So be sure to also tune in tomorrow for a really big day. We're going to have a Q&A with the programs folks, and we're talking the heads of each division. So we've got CRP, ARCP, ARCPLC, disaster programs. You'll be able to ask about all of those, even common management and IT. So some wonderful opportunities tomorrow to maybe dial in and find out some information or make suggestions about programs. So on behalf of your NASCOE leadership and our leaders in Washington, D.C., I hope you have a great day. Thank you.